Today, we're going to break down what looks like a massive shift in global power. And it's all being driven by this really raw, transactional, new way of doing foreign policy. From the oil fields down in South America, all the way up to the Arctic ice sheets, the old rulebook is pretty much being thrown out the window. And the new language of power? Well, it's all about resources and capital. So that's really the big question we're digging into today, right? Are we actually seeing a new world order take shape? It's a question that's being sparked by some really aggressive moves on the world stage, moves that are all about direct deals for stuff, not so much about traditional diplomacy. And it's making everyone, from governments to traders, sit up and pay attention. All right, let's dive in. Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at what's being called the Venezuela oil play. Then, we'll head way north for the Greenland gambit. After that, we'll check out a totally different strategy, the Saudi capital offensive, and then we'll wrap it all up by talking about what it means to navigate this new world with our eyes wide open. So let's kick things off with our first big piece of the puzzle, a really bold, you could even say brazen, move by the U.S. to get its hands on oil directly from Venezuela. Now, this is a country that's swimming in oil, but is also just loaded with geopolitical risk. So President Trump just announced that the U.S. is going to get up to 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela. Now, to give you a sense of scale here, Venezuela produces about 800,000 barrels a day. So, yeah, this is a huge amount of oil we're talking about. And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? This really gets to the heart of the new way of doing things. It's not about big ideas or spreading democracy. It's just a straightforward, pragmatic grab for resources. But, this is way more than just a simple oil purchase. There's a really heavy geopolitical price tag attached. See, in exchange for those 50 million barrels, Washington is apparently demanding that Caracas cut its ties with some of America's biggest rivals. We're talking Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba. So yeah, this deal comes with some major strings attached. And here's the kicker. There's a huge hurdle to making this kind of thing a long-term strategy. We're talking about an estimated $100 billion needed over 10 years just to get Venezuela's crumbling oil infrastructure back on its feet. And that really gets to the core of the problem here. After years of sanctions and just plain mismanagement, Venezuela's oil facilities are literally falling apart. So the ambition is huge, but the practical challenges are just as massive. I mean, why would big oil pour that kind of money into Venezuela when they have safer bets, like shale fields, right in their own backyard? Okay, so this whole thing in Venezuela, it's not some isolated incident. Nope, it's actually part of a much bigger pattern. And it goes way beyond just oil, which brings us to our next stop in the icy landscapes of the Arctic. Now get this. The White House is openly talking about a whole range of options, and that includes military force to acquire Greenland from Denmark. I mean, that just shows you how far the U.S. is willing to go in this new resource-first foreign policy. So, you might be asking, why Greenland, of all places? Well, it's a perfect storm of opportunity. As the ice melts because of climate change, it's not just opening up new shipping routes. It's also revealing these vast, untapped stores of critical minerals and fossil fuels. It's basically a strategic goldmine. So you've got the U.S. playing this hardball, might makes right kind of game. But at the exact same time, you have another huge player, Saudi Arabia, taking a completely different route to secure its future. They're not trying to seize resources, they're trying to attract capital. These are two very different bets on how you project power in the world today. And that brings us to Saudi Arabia, which is a fascinating contrast here. As the Saudis try to move their economy away from just oil, they're launching this massive capital offensive. The goal? To become a go-to global hub for investment. And if you want to know why they're moving so fast, just look at the numbers. Last year, while a market like Tel Aviv was soaring over 50%, the Saudi Stock Exchange actually fell 15%. It got hammered by oil prices and production cuts. The pressure to make a change was immense. And their response has been nothing short of dramatic. They're getting rid of restrictions on foreign stock investment, they're opening up their real estate market to outsiders, and they're even thinking about lifting the cap on how much of a Saudi company a foreigner can own. The message they're sending is loud and clear. Saudi Arabia is open for business. Okay, so we've seen the U.S. flex its muscles, we've seen Saudi Arabia play the long game with capital. What does all this actually mean for the global markets, and maybe more importantly for you, whether you're an investor or just trying to make sense of the world? There's a quote from a chief investment officer that I think just nails the mood right now. After a pretty good year for the markets recently, the new theme is basically be vigilant. Keep your eyes wide open. There are opportunities out there, for sure, but there's also a whole lot more risk. And you can really see this uncertainty playing out in the markets. I mean, we've seen the S&P hit a record high, but at the same time, we're seeing pullbacks in Asia. Oil prices are all over the place, while critical metals are rallying. It's a real mixed bag as traders try to figure out this new geopolitical reality. So what's the bottom line here? The big takeaway is that we are heading into a time where global politics is going to be a huge driver of market swings. This whole might makes right approach means more headline risk, sudden policy changes or diplomatic fights that can shake up your portfolio overnight. There's more volatility, and that constant threat of inflation could really spoil the party. Which really leaves us with one big, lingering question to think about. As all these nations scramble for resources and capital in this new, unapologetically transactional world, what are the true long-term costs of this new world order? What really is the ultimate price of power?